Good morning. I want to tell you a story about a woman I know. I met this one recently, and she got to talking, and she was telling me she's an astrologist, and she does the sun, the moon, the stars, and all this. You know what astrology is, the horoscopes. Well, some people might say the horoscopes is bullshit, but I'm a firm believer in the interconnectivity of everything, that everything is interconnected, and it's just a matter about figuring out that connection and how everything integrates with everything else, and cause and effect, basically how everything affects everything else, basically how everything works. And gaining a complete understanding of how everything works. But for this you have to understand the big picture and understand it from several models. So I'm always interested in every model, you know. But she was telling me anyway, she was going to bring me on a journey of self-discovery. So she says, you know, what's your star sign? I'm Taurus. What day were you born? What time were you born? All this bullshit. Now there's 4 other people there as well. And what's your star sign? When are you born? And this was all great crack, you know. But then she was telling me, when we got deeper into the understanding of nature and the understanding of things, she was telling me that everything is scripted, you know, and how it's like going to a film and you can't determine the end of the film, regardless of your opinion. The film will go as the film goes. It's already scripted, it's already made, and it just runs through, you know. Basically, we have no free will. And I see, because it's not for me. I'm not interested in trying to indoctrinate anybody. I listen to everybody's point of view, and then if I think they have the capacity to understand my perspective, I'll give it to them. And sometimes I will, even if they don't. And if they invokes in a cartridge as well response, I don't really give a fuck. I don't impose myself on anybody. But if they end up sitting beside me or end up in my company like she did, there's a good chance they'll get both barrels, you know. So anyway, there I was anyway. She was telling me we've no free will and all the rest. Then she went on to tell me how she was coming from Macedonia to Sofia, and there was no air conditioning on the bus, and there was no air conditioning on the back of the bus, and she got up and she went up to the driver and she says, you know, what's wrong with these people? Why are they not insisting on air conditioning? You know, the air conditioning should be on, and this, that, the other, Maria, you know. And I said, but sure, why are you directing your anger at them? Should have no free will. And she sort of looked at me and said, well, you know, she started to get a bit agitated. And then she was telling me about coming to another hostel here in Sofia, and about the treatment that she got, and this fella was this and that, he treated me like this, and he kicked me out at 12 o'clock at night, in the middle of the night, kicked me out onto the street and all the rest. And I says, but sure, he has no free will. Why are you directing your anger at him? He has no free will. He has no control over his actions, he has no control over his... I said, he has no free will. So why are you looking to him and directing your action to him? And at this she became even more agitated. And then she became agitated at my behaviour, and I said to her, maybe I've no free will either. You know what I mean? This, as you say, is scripted. What are you getting your knickers in a twist about? And then anyway, you get the idea. But anyway, as things transcribed, it turned out her actual energy. You know, she was going to bring everyone on a journey of self-discovery and this, that, the other. But it turned out, I'm going to cut this short, she was right cunt. Her energy was real low, and she was just like, you know, like I said to her, you know, well, Mrs., like this is an Irish thing, Mrs., well, Mrs., and she, don't call me Mrs., you don't call me Mrs., I'm not married, I've never been married, you don't call me Mrs., and I said, right, fuck this. So I just said, right, you're a right cunt, I'm going to invite you. So whenever I saw her coming after this, I used to say, here's that cunt. And my soul used to say, empathy, Dave, for fuck's sake, empathy. And it's always saying this to me, for fuck's sake, empathy. What did I tell you about empathy? And I says, yeah. Empathy my arse, you know what I mean? I have empathy, but I decided, recently I decided I'm going forward, I'm going to stop calling people stupid cunts. I wrote about this in philosophical thoughts, so I'm not going to explain it again. If you want to read it, you can read it there. But I said I'm going to stop calling them stupid cunts, because I'm going to have empathy. Because I remember back when I was suffering with anxiety and depression and all the rest. I won't go into too fine a detail, but more or less I started studying. People were saying to me, you know, I started to realise, the first thing I realised was I thought my brain was broke. So I started studying the brain in order to try and resolve the issue, you know. So I gained Like I met talking to a neuroscientist the other day, and he said we've a very limited understanding of the brain. We don't know much about the brain, and I said that's bollocks, mate. Really, like, because you're well able to formulate pharmaceutical compounds that impact on the workings of the brain. So you have to have the knowledge of the brain to be able to do that. Maybe he's a bit of a sham. I don't know. You get a lot of that with these Americans, you know. A lot of them are a bit of a sham, you know, to pretend to be things they're not, you know. But anyway, you know, when you try to broach the subject again and you see them running for cover, you sort of get the idea they're a bit of a sham, you know. But as I say anyway, I studied the brain and I was able to gain sufficient knowledge to be able to fix my own health issues. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the cause of my anxiety was an ingrained loop in the default mode network. In other words, my past, my present, my future. Oh, what has happened to me? I'm a victim of circumstance. Oh, poor me, woe betide me in these unfortunate circumstances. And then what is going to be happening to me? This was the biggest cause of anxiety, was what's going to become of me? What is going to become of me? You know, what does the future hold? He says, it's like stepping on the side of a cliff. I don't know which direction to go in. My future is just wiped out. I have no plans. I have nothing to direct my actions towards what is going to become of me. And this caused fierce fear, which in turn caused anxiety. And then, as well as that, we had the present moment bullshit. But that I tried that. But because I was overly concerned with the perceptions of others, everyone was laughing at me. Everybody was enjoying my fall from grace. Everybody was talking about, you know, oh, look at Dave now, he's working here and he's working there, he's packing shelves and he's this. And this again, then I was making videos at the time and no, I didn't even get a single like. Well, I still don't get a single like, but at that time I was questioning the quality of my content, questioning my own, you know, doubting myself. And this again contributed to the anxiety, which was getting progressively worse, but it was still wrapped up in the same thing, me, myself and I. And that's an ingrained loop in the default mode network. But you know, if you want to overcome this, I'm not going to bore the tits off you, but if you want to overcome this, you have to start to open up new neural pathways and breaking down to this default mode network, this ingrained loop of me, myself and I, and start to think outside this, bring yourself out of this. Now, where a lot of people, when they realise this, like they might go on these astrology courses or these meditation courses or some bullshit. And it's like me, like I chose at the time cognitive behavioural therapy because I wanted to understand myself better, and I happened to choose cognitive behavioural therapy. And when I was doing the cognitive behavioural therapy, I found it so profound. Now I'd find it simple now, but this is years ago. I would find it so profound. I found it so profound that I used to have to smoke a packet of cigarettes during nearly every lesson or every couple of hours, because I was doing it 3 or 4 hours at a time. And I used to have to smoke a packet of cigarettes because I'd learned from studying the brain that nicotine hacks the acetylcholine receptors. Acetylcholine being the neurotransmitter that's responsible for activating the receptors that enable the brain for the uptake and download of information and the storage of it in the hippocampus. But we'll end that biology lesson there. But basically, the cigarettes help me to focus and help me to parse the information. That's why mad people smoke. So they're trying to parse their reality. They're trying to make sense of what's going on around them. So they smoke, as even at a subconscious level, to just try and process their shit. You know what I mean? Like, I still smoke when I'm sitting there, like, trying to come to terms with a new environment, you know, and assess the situation. I sit there on the bench and I smoke fags and say, what the fuck exactly is going on here? Before I can choose which, how to respond, what behaviour I should and should not engage in this, you know, that would be a correct and suitable response to this environment. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is that this awe and wonder and this profound understanding, this was bringing me out of myself, bringing me out to me, myself and I, this cognitive behavioural therapy course, because it was there wow, ooh, wow. Like, but even at the time in the cognitive behavioural therapy course, it was saying that our thoughts bubble up from our stomach. Now, this is very simplistic thinking, but again, for me at the time, it was a lot of perspectives that I hadn't considered before, and it was deep and it was profound, and it was really bringing me out of myself. Now, if I had to go, which I did, I went and taught this on a page called The Psychedelic Therapist, and tried to make money from this, and then find value in helping others. So basically, my happiness and my whole emotional well-being is dependent on saving you or making you feel good. And then I was even getting rewarded and feeling value because, oh, you must value me, you're paying me for this shit. Then I would have went no further. But I would have regressed then again into the me, myself and I, because I am not moving forward. I'm just overwhelmed with this sea of cunts pouring their heart out, or, you know, if I was doing therapy, for example, oh, poor me, yep, poor me. And I would have been overwhelmed in this toxic shit, this wave of poor me, woe betide me, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to make any money from it at all. I didn't give a fuck about the money. I said, I'm not going to profit from someone else's misery. So, in other words, I didn't see an opportunity for profit in somebody else's pain and misery. I did it free. I did it actually to gain a better understanding of the course. But my point being, where empathy comes into this, is when she first initially, because this is where the empathy comes in, where she firstly would have initially done the astrology and said, whoa, oh, the sun, the moon, the stars, this is all so fucking amazing, and it would have brought her over herself. And then she would have started to teach this, and everybody, for say half an hour, while she's teaching this, you know, saying, oh, what's your star sign? Oh, what's your star sign now? While she's teaching this, it brings her out of herself. And then when she's finished, this is over, she just regresses into this, this is all bullshit. This is all bullshit, and basically she can't understand why she's such a miserable cunt. But you have to move forward. It's, you know, there's so much more than just the astrology. There's so much more than the cognitive behavioral therapy. There's so much more than the workings of the brain. There's so much more. All this is so much more, and this is why you do philosophy, to gain an understanding of nature and to continuously seek to understand and continuously be amazed and continuously stay coming out of yourself, but not into a codependent bullshit thing, or not into this woke bullshit as I wrote about this morning, because empathy only extends so far. But don't lose yourself in the tyranny of the weak, like going around licking everybody's arse, and empathy is about me licking your fucking hole and you feeling sorry for yourself and me understanding why you're feeling sorry for yourself and why I should bend the knee and fucking lick your arse. No, that's not empathy. That is not empathy. Empathy is understanding that you need to remove your head from your arse and don't drag us all down with you. That's empathy. Good morning.